Hey guys, this video is about one of the most important topics that I've ever discussed on a live video. What the subject is about is how to keep a dog from biting you or biting someone else. And what motivated me to do this video was a short clip that I saw posted yesterday by a rescue group that had just pulled a dog from a high kill shelter and was in the process of transporting that dog to the foster home. So here's what I saw that alarmed me and motivated me to do this, is that if you look at this whole thing in context, so here's a dog that was either picked up or abandoned by his owner, or relinquished by the owner at the shelter, we don't know which. And so he's in a high stress environment at the shelter. He's pulled from the shelter by someone he doesn't know. He's put in a car by a transporter that he doesn't know. And then he's transported to a foster home that he doesn't know. And what I saw that alarmed me was that when he got out of the car, both the transporter and the person that was going to be fostering had their hands on the dog, and the dog was completely stressed out. You could tell by his body language. He was whale-eyed, his tail was slightly between his legs, and he was licking his lips and turning his head away in avoidance. So those are classic signs of a dog that is highly stressed. And every bite there's a precursor for every bite, which is excitement or stress in literally every instance. Even if you don't see it building up, it's there. So what I want to do is talk to you about how you can be safe, not just in this particular environment, but in any environment that you put yourself in. So this dog, in this case, what they were doing was it was all innocent. There was an inadvertent setup for failure on their part, because what they were trying to do was check for fleas and ticks, which at this shelter is kind of notorious for dogs coming out in pretty bad shape. So they were picking up his little paws and kind of going through the paws, and you could see his head turning in this direction. I was kind of holding my breath because I've seen this play out before. Nothing happened. That's the good news. Nothing happened, but it could have. Because when dogs are put in a scenario like that, especially if they're being held, which was the last thing they did, was to grab the dog around the neck and kiss the dog on top of the head, which could have ended very poorly. But when a dog is being held by the neck or on a leash, they can't do the preferred method of getting out of that scenario, which is to go into flight, because they're being held, right, by either a leash or someone's arms. So dog's always going to try to avoid violence or aggression if he can, but if he can't, now he's stuck with very few options. So what you want to do is learn how to read body language, for one thing, but also understand that a dog that is stressed out is capable of doing things that they may not do in any other ordinary circumstance. So what happens when we stress a dog out is we actually push that dog into fight behavior, which is another way of saying bite. Fight or bite, same thing as the dog being reactive and actually going after someone, because there's stress involved. So again, when they can't get away because of a leash or hugging, then that creates even more stress. So there's some other things that are contributing factors that could create this scenario, and that would be that the human is moving too quickly. So there's no relationship between the human and the dog at this point. So the human is trying to do things that really only a person who has developed a relationship with this dog should do. The same thing for us. If we're walking down the street and someone decides they want to get to know us and they come and get in our face or try to touch us or hug us, we're not going to be very happy about that, and we have every right to retreat from that situation. Or if it got to be something really physical, in many cases we would get physical right back, right? Because no one is expected to take that. And so dogs, of course, they don't understand what's going on. This particular dog had no idea of all the different phases that he was going through, all the different changes that he was going to have to endure. So until there's a relationship built and you have an ability to actually evaluate the dog, then you shouldn't be doing things like that, because that could be a setup for failure. The other thing that was happening in this video was that there were two people, and they were both very close to the dog. And the dog had just gotten out of the car. The car door was actually still open. So there's a lot of proximity there, a lot of tightness in that space, which can also contribute to a ton of stress. When I'm going to fiddle with a dog or mess with a dog at all, I'm always going to make sure that I move the dog out of a tight spot into a more open area, so there's not that pressure of space around him. The other thing that happened that I want to make sure you guys don't do is go over the top of the head. So one of the two people in the that I saw in the video actually went to pet the dog over the top of the head. Now, as much as that's something that we've been taught to do with a dog, it's not a natural thing. Dogs aren't primates. They don't pet each other. They don't hug each other. So going over the top of the head can sometimes be a setup for a dog to bite, because that feels like a sort of a dominant, challenging move to make, to go over the head, the same way as hugging a dog over the back of the neck. That's how a lot of children get bitten, because their little faces are up at the same level as the dog's, and they go to hug them, and the dog gets stressed, can't move away, and bites the child. Another thing, which nobody ever seems to get the importance of this, but well, some people do, but it's really a contributing factor, and that is baby talk. Because baby talk to a dog that has just gone from on the streets or relinquished to a high kill shelter where he was never evaluated, never walked, never interacted with other dogs, no socializing. This particular shelter is like that. There are many in similar situations. And then put in a car with somebody. And so all these things were totally new to the dog. And then one of the people in the video was also doing a lot of baby talk. Well, baby talk, of course, affects the nervous system of the dog, because their hearing is very keen, because that's how they're wired, right? Is to hear prey and predators, to know what's out there. So their hearing is much better than ours. So when we go into this squeaky sort of high-pitched voice, that may work really well for dogs that are doing agility, because you want to keep that high level of excitement and adrenaline going, but you don't want that in a situation where you're dealing with a dog that you don't know, or somebody's come up to you and wants to greet your dog that you don't know, or that the dog doesn't know. So the baby talk, I always say, calm is king. Keep it very quiet. Keep it very stealth-like, the same way that a dog would be with another dog. They wouldn't go into talk because they don't. So that's also another contributing factor. Another thing that I saw in this dog also was the ears were pinned back, which is a sure sign of stress, licking the lips, and so on and so forth. So I made notes so that I made sure that I didn't leave anything out, because I was kind of fired up over this. So just keep that in mind, that what we don't want to do is set up a dog to fail, because this is what happens. This is the classic thing that happens to people all the time. But in this particular situation, what I was thinking of more than anything was how these dogs get evaluated and deemed evaluated improperly, and then deemed aggressive, and have this rescue only label on them when they go into shelters, because many times they're catch pulled, right? They're out loose. There's a lot of areas where dogs just kind of roam, and so that they're catch pulled. In some scenarios, if they even bite the pole, they're deemed aggressive. Like, who wouldn't? I would. Maybe not bite, but I would certainly get physical if somebody tried to catch pole me. So you have to think in terms of the context of something, that we all may think that we don't have any ability to do anything aggressive with anyone, but I can guarantee you, if you were threatened, your life was threatened, or someone you loved was threatened, you could probably come up with some things that you would have never done in any other scenario. So it's all in context. And then these dogs are stressed out. They're put in shelters. They're not in runs, and they're not taken out. So they've got all this pent up energy. They hear nonstop barking. It's a very stressful environment. And then to take them out and then further stress them is a big no-no. One of the people that does an amazing job is someone who fosters a lot for Bella Vita Rescue, and he's incredible. He's come to my workshops. He's very savvy, he knows a lot about dog behavior, but he's also a foster home. And he wrote up this amazing list that he emails people when they become fosters, that basically breaks down everything that they should do and not do. It's amazing. You don't ever see rescues do that, but he's done it, and it's pretty cool. And it's just something that everybody should go home with. It's things that I normally talk to my clients about, but I don't always put it in writing, so it was actually kind of a heads up for me. So that's what I wanted to share with you, is that so many times, it doesn't have to be a rescue situation either. It can be where somebody comes over to our home and they want to get in our dog's face and say, oh, I love dogs. Well, your dog didn't sign up for that person to come over. Your dog was just hanging out doing his thing, and all of a sudden you had company. And you don't know how he might feel about that, and you don't know what he might pick up energy-wise from that person that might make him uncomfortable. But the last thing you want is for that person to go over and hover over the dog, or try to touch him or pet him. Just let your dog move away. And if you're not sure that your dog knows how to handle that environment, it might be better just to put him up. I'm not all about just working your life, living your life around a dog's behavior or poor behavior. But in some scenarios, if you don't have company that often and you just want to make sure that things go well, there's nothing wrong with putting a dog up, putting a dog in a crate so that they can actually retreat and move away from that situation because they may not be comfortable. There's nothing in it for the dog to have to be forced to stay in that kind of an environment. So we have to really advocate for our dogs and look at things from their perspective, and how many times that dogs have bites on their records when they really shouldn't have because the human made a miscalculation in allowing other people to come towards them or even themselves. Okay, so I hope you got something out of that. If you'd like to learn more from me, I have a ton of workshops, both the end of this year, this fall. I've got 3. I've got a bunch next year, all the way into the fall of next year. So if you go to the link in my bio, you'll see them all lined up. My Learn to Lead in Knoxville is actually sold out. Their working spots are sold out, but I do have a lot of audit spots left. Well, 5. I have 5 audit spots left. Both my Dallas, Texas, and the one that's going to be here at the end of the year, both have 2 working spots left and about 5 audits each. So I hope you can make one of them. I would love to meet you and work with your dog. I've got other workshops. I've got my Wellness Unleashed, my Train the Trainer, which is my big kind of Cadillac workshop, mentor program. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I love you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. See you, bye.